teased by flight attendants right up until they realized I was an armed air marshal. I'd been working undercover for 72 hours straight, tracking a credible threat across 3 connecting flights. I looked exactly like what I was pretending to be, an exhausted woman in wrinkled clothes. My unwashed hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and I wore an old college sweatshirt specifically to blend in with economy passengers. What the flight attendants didn't know was that I had a loaded Glock secured under my oversized hoodie and was the only thing standing between them and a suspected terrorist in row 23. The crews on my other flights hadn't given me any trouble, but this one turned out to be a whole different ballgame when the lead flight attendant Violet looked at my boarding pass for first class, then at my appearance, and her smile turned plastic. "Are you sure you're in the right cabin?" she asked loudly enough for other passengers to hear. Sometimes the gate agents make mistakes with upgrades. When I confirmed my seat, she held my boarding pass up to the light like she was checking for counterfeit money. My jaw tightened, but I stayed silent. I needed to maintain my cover without losing sight of my suspect boarding behind me. Violet followed me to my seat and immediately started questioning how I'd gotten the upgrade. Miles? Corporate status? Or did you sweet talk someone at check-in? Before I could answer, she turned to her colleague Harper and said, "We need to verify this with the gate. She doesn't look like our typical first-class passenger." I sat down and started to pull out the complimentary phone charger when Violet snatched the entire amenity kit away. "Let's wait until we confirm you belong here," she said. "These retail for $200 and we can't have them disappearing." The businessman next to me shifted uncomfortably as she basically accused me of theft in front of everyone. Harper brought pre-flight champagne to every first-class passenger except me, making eye contact as she deliberately skipped my seat. Then she loudly asked the businessman if he wanted to switch seats since he probably wasn't comfortable sitting next to someone who didn't belong there. Violet noticed my worn backpack and pulled it out without asking, claiming it needed to be checked. When I reached for it, panicking because my badge and weapon authorization were hidden inside, she held it away and started going through the external zippers. "What are you hiding?" she asked. "Drugs? Alcohol?" I managed to grab it back, but now she was treating me like a criminal. She called for the male flight attendant and asked him to stand guard near my row because she suspected I might be trafficking something. "Watch your hands at all times," she said loudly. These people often work in teams. When I shifted to keep eyes on my suspect, Violet announced to the cabin that I was making passengers uncomfortable. She actually asked everyone in first class to raise their hand if they felt unsafe with me there, and when a few people hesitantly did, she used it as justification to call the captain. The captain came out looking annoyed, and Violet immediately painted me as a security threat. She forced her way into first class, won't let go of her bag, keeps watching other passengers, and became aggressive when questioned. The captain, clearly wanting to get back to flying, authorized them to take whatever measures necessary. Harper returned with zip tie restraints and announced they were detaining me for suspicious behavior. When I kept my arms at my sides, Violet grabbed my wrist and tried to force it behind my back. "Stop resisting," she said loudly, making it sound like I was fighting when I was sitting still. The physical contact made me instinctively pull away, which she immediately called assault. "She's attacking me," Violet screamed, even though I'd barely moved. "We need backup! This woman is trying to hijack the plane." She pulled the intercom and announced a security emergency to the entire aircraft, sending passengers into panic. People started screaming and crying, thinking they were about to die. Harper tried to tackle me into my seat while Violet attempted to spray me with mace from her vest. I had to duck to avoid being blinded, which would have left the plane defenseless. They interpreted my ducking as an attack posture and started screaming that I was going for a weapon. The male flight attendant grabbed my hair and yanked my head back while Violet tried to force my sweatshirt up to search me. My hand went instinctively to keep my concealed weapon secure, but they thought I was reaching for something. "Weapon! She's going for a weapon!" Harper screamed, even though she couldn't see anything. Violet grabbed the coffee pot and raised it over my head, ready to knock me unconscious. That's when my suspect in row 23 stood up and started moving toward the cockpit, his hand going into his jacket. My body moved on pure training, breaking free and sprinting down the aisle. Violet tried to clothesline me, screaming that I was the terrorist, but I ducked under her arm and tackled the suspect just as he pulled what looked like a detonator. "Federal Air Marshal!" I shouted, my badge finally visible as I pinned him down. "Everyone stay in your seats!" I looked up at Violet, who stood frozen with the coffee pot still raised, her face white as she saw my badge and gun. Harper still had the mace aimed at me, her hand shaking as she realized she'd been about to blind the only person protecting the flight. Full story on the channel below.